In the cluttered back room of an antique shop in rural Vermont, Emily Harper stumbled upon the mirror. It was tucked behind a stack of dusty oil paintings, its ornate frame carved with twisting vines and grotesque faces that seemed to leer in the dim light. The glass was fogged with age, but when she wiped it clean with her sleeve, her reflection stared back, sharp, almost too vivid. The shopkeeper, an elderly man with eyes like polished stones, watched her intently. "That one's got history," he rasped. "Belonged to a medium back in the 1920s. Said it showed echoes of the soul." Emily, a recent widow still numb from her husband David's sudden death in a car accident 6 months prior, felt a pull toward it. "How much?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Take it for $50. But a word of caution. Mirrors like that, they don't just reflect, they remember. She laughed it off as sales patter and hauled the heavy thing home to her isolated cabin on the edge of Blackwood Forest. The place was a fixer-upper she'd bought to escape the city sympathies, surrounded by towering pines that whispered in the wind. That night, she hung the mirror in her bedroom, opposite the bed. As she undressed, her reflection mimicked her perfectly, until it didn't. For a split second, as she turned away, she swore the image lingered, watching her. By morning, she dismissed it as grief playing tricks. David had been her anchor. Without him, shadows seemed longer, nights endless. But that evening, as rain lashed the windows, she caught it again. In the mirror, her reflection smiled while her own face remained neutral. A chill spider walked down her spine. She stepped closer, breath fogging the glass. The smile widened, revealing teeth too sharp, too many. "Stop it," she muttered to herself, backing away. It was just the light, the storm distorting things. The anomalies escalated slowly, like a predator circling. The next day, while brushing her hair, she saw a hand, not hers, reach from behind her reflected shoulder. It was David's hand, calloused from years as a mechanic, placing a gentle touch on her arm. She spun around, heart hammering. The room was empty, but in the mirror, David stood there, whole and alive, his blue eyes pleading. His lips formed silently. "Help me." Tears blurred her vision. She pressed her palms to the glass, feeling a faint warmth. "David, is it really you?" His image nodded, then flickered, replaced by her own wide-eyed stare. She spent hours that night staring, willing him back. When he reappeared, it was with urgency. He gestured wildly, mouthing words she strained to read. "Danger. Coming. Run." From what? She scoured the house, checked locks, but found nothing amiss. Exhaustion claimed her, but sleep brought nightmares of David trapped in a glassy void, pounding on invisible barriers. The following morning, the mirror showed more. Not just David, but echoes of their life together. Laughing over breakfast, dancing in the kitchen. It was intoxicating, a portal to lost happiness. She skipped work, ignored calls from friends. "I'm fine," she texted her sister. "Just need space." But the visions darkened. One afternoon, as she watched a reflected memory of their wedding day, the scene warped. David's face contorted in agony, blood trickling from his eyes. The bridal party twisted into grotesque figures, their skins sloughing off like wet paper. Emily screamed, shattering the illusion. When it cleared, her reflection whispered audibly, "Closer. Touch me." She recoiled, but curiosity, no, desperation, drew her back. That night, under a full moon filtering through the curtains, David appeared again. This time, sound accompanied him, a faint echoing voice like shouting through water. "Emily, it's not me." Get out! Confusion knotted her gut. If not him, then what? She researched the mirror online, fingers flying over her laptop. Forums on paranormal artifacts mentioned similar items. Soul traps, relics cursed by occultists to ensnare the grieving. One post detailed a 1920s medium named Eliza Crow, who used such a mirror to commune with the dead until it consumed her, leaving only a desiccated husk. The shopkeeper's words echoed, "They remember." Panic set in. She tried to remove the mirror, but it wouldn't budge, as if fused to the wall. Hammering at the frame only cracked the plaster around it. The glass remained pristine. As she swung again, her reflection lunged forward, fingers clawing at the surface from inside. Emily dropped the hammer, stumbling back. The cabin felt smaller now, the forest outside pressing in like a living entity. She called the antique shop, but the line was dead. Storm damage, she told herself. Driving into town seemed impossible. Fog had rolled in, thick as soup, swallowing the road. That night, the mirror pulsed with light, independent of the room's lamps. David, or whatever wore his face, beckoned her. "Come to me, Em. We can be together forever." She resisted, curling up in the corner, but the visions invaded her mind even with eyes closed. Flashes of horrors, bodies writhing in glassy prisons, faces melting into screams, and Eliza Crow, her story unfolding like a film reel. The medium had discovered the mirror in an abandoned asylum where patients claimed it stole souls. She used it for seances, drawing in spirits. But it wasn't spirits. It was something ancient, an entity that fed on grief, mimicking the dead to lure the living. Emily's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Don't look away. It hates being ignored." Who sent that? She hurled the phone across the room. The mirror laughed, a low gurgling sound that vibrated the floorboards. By dawn, isolation fractured her resolve. She approached the glass, whispering, "What do you want?" Her reflection, now a twisted amalgam of her and David, replied in a chorus of voices, "You, all of you." Tentacles of shadow unfurled from the frame, coiling around her wrists. She yanked back, but they held fast, cold as ice. The glass rippled like water, and she felt herself being pulled forward. David's face emerged inches away, but his eyes were black voids. "Join us," he hissed. "The echoing ones." She fought, kicking and screaming, but the pull was inexorable. Her fingertips breached the surface, entering a gelid realm where echoes screamed eternally. Faces pressed against the other side, hundreds, thousands, trapped souls contorted in agony. Eliza was there, her mouth frozen in a wail. With a final surge of will, Emily twisted free, collapsing to the floor. The shadows retracted, but the mirror cracked, a hairline fracture spiderwebbing across the glass. The entity howled, a sound that shattered windows and uprooted trees outside. She fled the cabin, barefoot into the fog-shrouded forest. Branches whipped her face, roots tripped her, but she ran until her lungs burned. Behind her, the cabin's lights flickered erratically, then went dark. Hours later, rescuers found her on the forest edge, babbling about mirrors and echoes. They dismissed it as hysteria from exposure. The cabin was inspected. The mirror hung innocently, its crack repaired as if never broken. No signs of struggle, just an empty house. Emily was committed to a psychiatric ward where she refused to look at any reflective surface. But in the polished steel of her room's sink, she sometimes caught glimpses. David's hand reaching out, forever calling. Months passed. The antique shop sold the mirror again, this time to a young man mourning his lost love. The shopkeeper smiled knowingly. "It's got history," he said. And in the glass, faint echoes waited, hungry for more. But Emily knew the truth. The entity wasn't confined to the mirror. It spread through reflections, jumping from glass to glass, water to window. She saw it in the eyes of her doctors, in the sheen of their clipboards. It whispered promises of reunion, but delivered only oblivion. One night, in her padded cell, she smashed the small mirror above the sink. Shards rained down, each holding a fragment of horror. As blood welled from her cuts, she laughed maniacally. "You can't have me." The orderlies restrained her, but in the reflective buckles of their belts, the echoes grinned back. The entity endured, patient as time. It echoed through puddles after rain, in the gloss of a stranger's phone screen. And somewhere, in a quiet cabin or a bustling city apartment, another grieving soul would gaze too long and hear the call. The end came for Emily not in violence, but surrender. Staring into a spoon's curve during dinner, she saw David one last time. Real or not, it didn't matter. She reached out and the world dissolved into glass. Rescuers found her body the next morning, eyes wide and vacant, a smile etched on her face. The spoon lay beside her, its surface fogged as if breathed upon from within. And in the antique shop, the mirror waited, pristine and hungry, for the next echo to capture.